cyber attacks against our companies, our critical infrastructure. We are prepared to respond. For months, we've been working closely with the private sector to harden our cyber defenses, sharpen our ability to respond to Russian cyber attacks as well.
The United States is on high alert because of the international crisis in Ukraine, but not only because of the Russian military invasion, but also amid the concerns that the conflict is advancing into cyberspace. Ukrainian websites in the financial, defense, aviation, and information technology arenas have already been hit with data swiping malware. Researchers say that it's too early to tell who's behind the attacks, but Ukrainian officials blame Russia. U.S. cyber risk analysts warn these are high and rising concerns that cyber attacks could soon hit the West. The Department of Homeland Security has already launched a cyber protection effort to shield vital parts of the U.S. infrastructure like pipelines, banks, hospitals, and commercial aviation. I had a chance to sit down with the former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson earlier today to get his thoughts on the latest. Take a listen. Secretary Johnson, thank you for joining us tonight. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. and NATO have imposed stiff sanctions on Russia, and one of the ways that Russia might want to retaliate is through cyber attacks. What might that look like here in America if they do it, and how likely do you think it is that they would launch cyber attacks against the U.S. and other countries?
First, let me preface my answer with this. I believe that Vladimir Putin, I believe this is a very dangerous situation we're in, especially because Vladimir Putin does not appear to be acting rationally, even for someone with Russian interest in mind. What is the end game? What is the military objective for going into Ukraine? One has to have a clear military objective and a goal in doing so. Even if President Putin and the Russian military were able to push aside the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian military, there's still a civilian population of 41 million people in that country, and one cannot assume that they will just simply bend to the Russian will because their government has been toppled, and we'll likely see civilian uprisings all across that country. So it is difficult to understand exactly what Putin is doing here. I believe that he's losing a grip on reality. He's been president for too long. This is an armchair analysis from someone who doesn't any longer have access to daily intelligence briefings, but he is not behaving rationally. Now, in answer to your question, in my judgment, the principal threat to our homeland, the United States, is a cyber threat from Russia if Russia chooses to engage us directly on that front. I believe for some time that cyberspace is the new battle space in the 21st century, slowly pushing aside conventional nation-state warfare. And we know from the SolarWinds attack in 2020, which was launched from a Russian platform and which affected a number of private entities in this country and government agencies, that the Russian capability here is enormous, as is the U.S. capability. So we have to be on a heightened level of vigilance in this period. And because most of cyber assets are in the private sector, that means critical infrastructure, banks, the defense industrial base have to be on heightened alert. Unfortunately, these type of attacks very often occur from malware that has been planted months, if not years before, but there are ways to detect the presence of malware on cyber defense. And in terms of a response, Charles, we now have a U.S. Cyber Command, which is part of the Department of Defense, which has an offensive cyber capability. And we could respond in kind or not necessarily in kind, so long as that response is proportionate in some way.
So, we're going to get back to cybersecurity. I want to take up your first point, though, about whether or not Putin is acting rationally and how dangerous this moment is. You know, when you look at the global history of inter-country warfare, this is a thing that happens when people are empire building. They rush into other countries, other territories. They take it even over the citizens' objections, and they crush those objections. Do you think that Vladimir Putin is actually thinking that that is what he wants to have happen here? That it's not that he's just, not thinking it through, but maybe he has in fact thought it through and believes that he is not only capable of crushing any Ukrainian opposition, but is willing to do that?
In this case, with NATO on his doorstep, I don't believe that that is a logical or rational way of looking at things. Ukraine has been out of the Soviet bloc since 1991. The majority of Ukrainians have no recollection of what it was like to be part of a Soviet Union. And so simply rolling in the tanks and pushing aside the government will not change the will of the Ukrainian people, and there are 41 million of them. And together with NATO's support, I don't believe that simply assuming that you can succeed in this objective is at all rational. This is very different from the past, though Putin obviously has some sort of dream of restoring the old Soviet bloc. But times are different now, and Ukraine has lived far too long as an independent republic.
Let's go back to this issue of cyber attacks. You said that the U.S. has built up its ability to respond to cyber attacks in proportional ways. How complicated is that, though? Because many of the things that the Russians could do would in fact be targeting institutions that directly affect American citizens. A proportionate response would be you have to be nefarious in the same way that it would attack things that directly attack Russian citizens. That seems to be kind of outside the bounds of what the U.S. would do. So how would the U.S. gauge what would be a proportionate response to a cyber attack on banking systems, for, let's say, on infrastructure?
You're taking me back to my days when I was the lawyer for the Defense Department. A proportionate response is not necessarily an identical response. It is not necessarily a response in kind. If there is a cyber attack on our civilian infrastructure, a proportionate response could be some form of attack on the capability that launched that cyber attack in the first place, or it may be some sort of response, so long as that it is proportionate. You can't respond in a way that it greatly outsizes the original attack. That's what proportionality means, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the response has to be identical. We don't need to bind ourselves in that way.
And is that enough to stop the behavior? I mean, if Putin only believes that whatever he does, the same thing will come back, but no greater, is that enough to stop the behavior?
No, I'm not, and I'm not suggesting that we are limited to simply a cyber response to a cyber attack. One of the things that I think has been heartening here, after 4 years of Trumpism and go it alone attitude, is we do see the virtue of a coalition. We do see a virtue of the Western European NATO alliance, which has a multiplier effect on our response. And so we are responding with sanctions. There apparently will be a new round of sanctions with today's presidential announcement. And sanctions can hurt. I think we should seriously consider sanctions imposed on Vladimir Putin personally. And I'm sure that there are a range of other options, financial and otherwise, that are being considered in response to today's actions. And if there is some form of cyber attack on the United States, we do have considerable offensive cyber capabilities, but our responses need not be limited to just cyber. Again, there are a range of economic and financial remedies that we do have. But all of this, by the way,
Secretary Jay Johnson.
does not. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to thank you, but finish your thought,
all of this
please.
does not in any way mitigate the very dangerous situation I think we're facing here. We're dealing with what I believe is an irrational actor, and it's going to be up to the coalition of the free world to respond here.
Secretary Jay Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your expertise on this subject. Appreciate it.
Thank you.